Disclaimer, this video is not meant to promote or glamorize drug use in any way. Its primary aim is to educate you about the dangers associated with these substances. Please refrain from engaging in any activities mentioned in this video. I repeat, please refrain from engaging in any activities mentioned in this video. I had been interested in psychedelics for about 3 years and have taken LSD and mushrooms to gain more knowledge, enjoy my trip, and learn more about myself. I do realize the consequences of taking these drugs at a young age. It was about a month or 2 ago. I had bought 7 grams of Blue Meanie mushroom strain from a friend of mine for my boyfriend and I. We had taken them the next day. He took 3.4 grams. He is heavier than me. He should have taken more. And I took 3.6 grams dipped in peanut butter, which I had regretted afterwards. We had planned our day out and were going to his friend's house to hang out for a bit. We were waiting for the peak. About an hour or less later, my body started to feel heavy, and hallucinations were starting to get stronger. His friend finally arrived home, and I was starting to get out of it. This had been my most intense mushroom experience, and as soon as I walked in the door, I sat down next to my boyfriend's friend's mom and told her that I am tripping on mushrooms and I'm not okay. I can't remember the conversation after that, but my boyfriend's friend told us that we had to go on a ride to get his GF. So my boyfriend and I sat in the back seat of his friend's stick, and we drove out to the mall. Looking out the window, everything was warping and moving. Trees were growing huge, and the car looked like it had a 360 lens on it. The music was awesome, until a sound of nature started playing. I started tripping out. I didn't know if it was real or not, and I started freaking out. I'm not exactly sure why. My boyfriend's friend started playing High C, and I started vibing to it. We had finally arrived to the mall, which felt like it had taken hours to get there, but it was only 20 minutes. His girlfriend got into the car, and then my stomach started feeling upset after eating all of those mushrooms. My boyfriend told me that eating these things is basically poisoning yourself, and I took that all too seriously. My whole body felt tingly, like the mushrooms were trying to get out of me. I folded and was sitting in an odd position. My boyfriend was tapping me and asking me if I was okay, but I was so out of it that I kept forgetting to respond. My boyfriend was tapping me and asking me if I was okay, but I was so out of it that I kept forgetting to respond, so I just said, "Unicorn turtle beach ball." I couldn't comprehend anything that was happening until we got back to his friend's house. His mom asked if I was okay, and my boyfriend just took me down to his basement. There was an Xbox, so we were just watching Family Guy. My body was aching so unbelievably bad, it felt like spikes were jabbing at it. I had a hard time walking, and as soon as I sat down, I started bawling my eyes out. I was telling my boyfriend how I need to go to a mental institution and that I need to get help. He told me to stop thinking like that. I was trying to. I started bawling my eyes out, sobbing. Not the cute kind of sobbing, the ugly kind where snot is coming out of your nose. I kept thinking how my life is a movie, and I kept on thinking about the memories of summer and how choices have no consequences, and that I can just change my whole life by speaking my mind or doing just one simple thing, create and cause dysfunction throughout every relationship, friendship I have had in my whole life. I sat there crying for what felt like an hour. I felt like puking, but could only dry heave. My boyfriend was holding me, telling me it will be all right and that I do not need to go to a mental hospital. He kept on reassuring me and holding me. I had finally spun back into reality. I started laughing. I told him that it's just another Monday. He started to smile and then he said to me, "We do this all the time. Just another day, just another week. Me and you are Jesse and Jane," referring to Breaking Bad, one of our favorite shows. He said I knew how these things worked. Shrooms come in waves. I tried watching a bit of Family Guy until I started to freak out more because I kept hearing noises coming from upstairs. That's when my boyfriend's friend came down and told us that we need to leave since he's going out somewhere. I started freaking out because I had grown an attachment to his basement. I could barely walk or see anything, as my vision was completely covered in hallucinations of my own imagination. I forgot how to walk, so I was stumbling down the street to get to my car. My boyfriend had to drive since he felt more in control of his trip, but the thing is that he is not as experienced in driving as I am, and he doesn't even have his permit. I did not care a single bit. I told him I need to lay down in the back and let myself calm down. We had finally arrived to his house, and seconds later, his mom saw us. She saw me stumbling, trying to walk with no shoes on. She asked if I was all right, but I had forgotten who I was. I forgot everything about myself, where I was at. All I knew is that I felt like vomiting. We went upstairs to his room, and I went on his bed. A few moments later, his mom came in, and she was tripping out more than me, and him both were. She was yelling at my boyfriend, and I just was sitting there trying to watch some TV. I was oblivious to everything, and his mom was trying to talk to me. I forgot how to speak, so I just told her I forget. She asked where my phone was to call my mom, and I had no idea, so I told her I forgot. She then looked in my bag and found my phone and couldn't get into it, and I just had no idea what was happening. She kept asking for my password, but I couldn't remember it. By the time they finally got my mom's number, she was talking to her downstairs, and I could barely walk. They had to hold me by my hands. I was out of it, so the screaming my parents were doing was oblivious to me. I could have cared less. When my dad got home, he was drunk and was laughing at me. Thank God I wasn't the only sober person in the room. He asked how many grams I took. I told him a bit too much. I was starting to regain abilities in walking, and everything turned out okay. My boyfriend's mom didn't trust me after that, and my boyfriend tells me he gets a lot of anxiety whenever he thinks of it. I still have nightmares about it and flashbacks from time to time, which is why that'll be the last time I take shrooms for a while. To give you an idea of my background, I have been using psilocybin mushrooms for 5 years now. Just until recently have I been taking very large dosages. For the past 6 months, I have been taking the mushrooms every 2 weeks. Upon every experience, I would ask myself questions about space, time, gods, entities, reality. Well, this last trip gave me all the answers I needed. The answer drove me completely insane. It all started when I went to my buddy Jay's house. We took 2 ounces of purple ringers, cubensis, and 2 ounces pea. Cyanescents, blue meanies, chopped them up on a tray and began to boil them. After about 20 minutes, the brew was cooled enough to drink. I chugged my cup of thick purple syrup and began the wait. 45 minutes in. It wasn't a usual come-up. It felt so intense in my body. It was hard to talk or think. Everything was swaying and changing colors. At this point, the come-up normally slows down, and I feel normal and just trip. Not this time. 1 hour and 30 minutes in. I felt as my brain has been defragmented. Nothing looked real. Everything looked alien. I thought my body has been transported into another dimension. I could see through the spaces of time and reality. And I thought this was the peak. Jay and I didn't speak much, just glanced at each other, because we knew we were both going through the same thing. We just asked questions in confusion, because at that point we didn't know the difference between anything. I had a pack of cigarettes in my hand. I stared in complete confusion, wondering what the device was. 2 hours and 30 minutes in. This is the point where things got way too real. I was convinced I was the only soul in this dimension. That Earth is nothing but a desert with no life except my own. I could see my insane self inside of my head, screaming for companionship in this lonely desert. I realized that everything around me that I see normally is nothing but a creation of my own mind. That my body is a virus constricting my soul, built by the aliens to create something for them. But who knows what? I thought all my friends and family are my own mental creation, just to convince myself I'm not insane. All of history was written by me, sending myself messages from my past lives, just so in this moment I will realize the truth. I felt as if I discovered the meaning of life. I could completely see it. There is no feeling like the feeling of discovering every belief you've ever had is nothing but a delusion. I could see the building block of reality, the threads that hold space and time together. The television was in slow motion and screaming at me, telling me everything I've ever believed is a lie, that my body is nothing but the entrapment of a soul, and without my body, my soul will shoot through space at the speed of light, allowing me to be in control of all dimensions. This part of the trip lasted about 6 to 7 hours. It felt like longer, because everything felt like I was stuck in a loop. The loop of eternal mental damnation. I couldn't escape. My friend Jay sat there staring at me with a smile on his face. I didn't even have to talk. I felt as if we had a telepathic link. Later, when I asked him, he said he felt the same way. No words were needed. This trip was 2 months ago. Even when I think about it now, chills consume my body because I can remember the feeling of discovering the meaning of life. The realization that everything around me is produced by me, the reality-producing machine, and how I am alone in this world, insane with delusion. I have done mushrooms a few times since, but every time I take them, I go back to the same place. The reoccurring bad trip that is too intense for me to handle, even in smaller doses. My psilocybin experience is over, and I think it may have rendered me mentally insane.